Morning, Mohan.
So we have 2 more minutes, sir, and we have all the panelists and the PALS member.
I should be
The moderator, all of us are ready.
Yeah.
Morning, Zubu.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
I hope you're okay now. You can look up the screen now without getting.
Yeah, I can. Yesterday I had a full work day, so I didn't
You told me,
feel
you told
uneasy.
me.
So it's fine. Yeah, it's
Good,
fine.
great. Nice to see you. Thank you.
I'm also happy that I can stay up and take part here.
Ten 10:30 now, Mohan sir. Can we start now?
Yeah, you tell me if you are good, we can start.
We can start now, Mohan sir. You can go ahead. We are live also.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all the audience who have logged in, students, faculty, and members from our partner institutes and alumni friends from all over, I guess. A warm welcome to the panelists, esteemed panelists who have found time to be with us for the next couple of hours to talk about and discuss what seems to be becoming more and more intriguing in terms of this entire supply demand equation across industries, and more prominently so in the technology, digital tech, consumer tech kind of sectors. And of course, not lagging far behind the manufacturing sector with smart manufacturing, etc. Now, industry academia gap is not a new jargon. It's not a new phrase. It has been around for 20 years. Especially those of you from the faculty would recall the Y2K days, 99, 2000, 2001, when the problem first came to the limelight. Now, the good thing about the problem at those days was it was very well defined. You know, we all could define what the problem was, what the gap was, and what the solution. And predominantly, the gap was around soft skills. You know, people didn't know how to talk. You know, that was one major issue that was faced during those days. The skills were okay, and companies were also okay saying that, look, we will train them. Now, it went in that pace for a long time, I guess, but I think the last 18 months have been extremely disruptive, and we can point that to COVID as a positive fallout, or it could be a natural disruption that technology has brought into the industry landscape, or it could be a multiple set of things. But now, I believe many of us, and I look up to answers from the panel, many of us are struggling to define what the problem is, because it is not one problem. It is probably a whole set of problems. And I'm using the word problem loosely. It is actually a good problem. It's a good problem because there is so much of opportunities out there in the marketplace. And the industry more than ever is now willing to absorb students from different colleges, you know, arts and science, engineering, technology-based institutions, and many others. So the opportunities are there for the asking and for taking. So that being the case, they're also screaming and saying that, look, you know, I want this, I want that, and then I'm struggling. Of course, industries have now their own issue. The opportunities are posing a lot of attrition. You know, if you look at the tech sector, attrition is the highest ever recorded, you know, goes to about 25%. So that could also offer its own problems. So while now it looks like a tremendous advantage for India as a country in terms of technology proliferation, does India run the risk of, overstating a little bit, but crumbling under its own weight over a period of time, thanks to multiple set of complexities that it has to grapple with, and then of course find solutions. So far, yes, solutions are being found, but I think at some point, some equilibrium or break point would emerge. So to prevent all that is what I guess the best heads are here today also to speak about. What are the quote unquote problems? What are the challenges that and opportunities that the problem gives? And now people are talking more in terms of opportunities. And what more can the academia do? Can the industry do to make sure that there is a synergy between the two, so that ultimately they serve their customers across the world? So I don't have full answers to that. So I would leave that job to Mr. Abhay Meghnadhan and the team here to discuss and come up with recommendations. Just a quick word on the panelists today. From the academia, we have Professor Ravindran from IIT Madras and Mr. Satish Chandra from the Sri Vishnu Group of Institutions in Hyderabad. Welcome both of you gentlemen. And of course, Abhay Meghnadhan, who is now taken over as the head and Vice Chancellor of the Rajalakshmi Group of Institutions. He will wear the hat of, I guess, the academia, but he will also wear the hat of the moderator for this session. Welcome the three of you from the academia side of things. And from the industry, we have one person from the tech sector, Sundar Subramaniam, who is the Chief Delivery Officer at Mphasis. And then we have Ram Kumar, who of course retired recently as a chairman of Cognizant India, but now more prominently known as the Vice Chancellor at the Kriya University. And then of course we have our own alumnus, Karthik Atmanathan, who is the Vice President and Head of the e-vehicles at Ashok Leyland, but now on a sabbatical, and he's a Professor of Practice at the Institute. So welcome, gentlemen, all of you, for this very, very, what promises to be a very hot and interesting discussion. I would be on a listening mode and hopefully, we'll learn quite a bit from the session. So are the audience. So for the audience, it is going to be, please do share your questions as usual on the chat window. Lavana is here who will make sure that, the questions are either read out or made available to the panelists, and we will try to address them. In fact, the way we have structured this is after 90 minutes of end-to-end discussion and leave 30 minutes for questions. So feel free to shoot up any questions. There is nothing like a wrong question or a bad question or a question that you should not be happy about. You're better off asking questions than not asking them. So do that. And if at all you want to talk, do that. Put up your hand, and then I'm sure we will unmute your video and audio as well to make sure that your voice is heard. So till you need to speak, please put, of course, all your systems on mute so that the panel discussion can go uninterrupted. So once again, I welcome all of you to this session. And before I toss it over, just a one line or two line on PALS per se. PALS is a voluntary initiative by alumni of various IITs, working with many engineering colleges in India, in Tamil Nadu, and very recently in Telangana, as well as Nepal. We have a college from Nepal as well, who is a member. So we would look at expanding PALS into multiple regions of India and abroad. It's an absolutely voluntary thing. Yes, we charge a small fee, but that is to make sure it is sustained and it's self-sustaining, and we are able to run the program and get all the costs covered. But for all of us alumni, it is an absolutely give back. We all enjoy what we have been doing for the last 10 years. And this is actually, we have finished the 10 year as we speak. We look forward to another glorious 10 years next decade for all of us at PALS, with the support of IIT Madras, which is now, and PALS is now considered as a full-fledged reach out activity and program of IIT Madras. So with that, we will jump into the discussion. But before that, it's our duty to introduce the panelists properly and fully. And for that, may I invite my senior colleague, Arun Dev from PALS, to introduce and read out the profiles of the panelists. Over to you, Arun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mohan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this session today. So it's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for the discussion today, and I would start with Professor B. Ravindran. He heads the Robert Bosch Center for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence at IIT Madras, one of the leading interdisciplinary AI research centers in India. He is a Mindtree Faculty Fellow and Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Madras. He has held visiting positions at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, University of Technology, Sydney, Australia, as well as Google Research. Currently, his research interests are centered on learning from and through interactions and span the areas of geometric deep learning and reinforcement learning. His work with students has won multiple Best Paper awards, the most recent being the Best Application Paper at the Pacific Asia Conference on Knowledge Discovery and Data Mining 2021. He received his PhD from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, and his master's degree from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Welcome, Professor Ravindran.
Thank you.
I introduce Mr. Satish Chandra. Mr. Satish Paruchuri Chandra is a graduate of Computer Science Engineering, started his career with the Center for Good Governance in building e-governance systems, and became a key member in creating and implementing Jawahar Knowledge Center concept and female student campus placement mission in the state of Andhra Pradesh, the first ever large-scale initiative in India for bridging the gap between government, university, and industry to improve the employability of engineering students and create a level playing ecosystem for rural and urban students by catering to increased women percentage for industry. As part of the initiative, he's played many roles in creating industry initiatives, the likes of Oracle, IBM, Infosys, CSC, etc., and helped over 1 lakh graduates and facilitated employment of over 20,000 graduates directly. Subsequently, he joined Sri Vishnu Educational Society as Director, Industrial Relations in 2012, and currently spearheads many initiatives in aligning with industry for increasing employable talent. He is actively consulted by many industries for creating and skilling initiatives and edtech companies, and is a column writer on skilling. Mr. Satish has been an active member of CII Education and Skilling at CII Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and the southern region for a decade, and is an active member with the NASSCOM skilling initiatives. Welcome, Mr. Satish. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Karthik Atmanathan, Senior Vice President of Ashok Leyland, who's halfway through a 2-year sabbatical from Ashok Leyland, during which he was chosen to give back to society by working with academia and government. He was head of Ashok Leyland's e-mobility business with overall accountability for technology, people, sales, and P&L. Prior to the same, he was Ashok Leyland's Global Bus Platform Director and Chief Engineering. He is currently a professor of practice at IIT-M and is helping with the launch of an MTech program in EV and e-mobility. Karthik is also a fellow with the Principal Advisor's Office, where he is helping the Government of India to evolve innovative and India-centric standards for EV charging and batteries. Apart from this, Karthik is helping a host of other academic institutions, including the Ramakrishna Mission. His hobbies include travel and wildlife. Welcome, Mr. Karthik Atmanathan. Mr. Sundar Subramaniam is Chief Delivery Officer at Mphasis. He's the President of Global Delivery at Mphasis, has in-depth global experience in services industry with an outstanding track record in leading and growing small and large business units. In his career spanning over 27 years, he has spearheaded successful global delivery, consulting, operations, and people management functions. In his previous role at Cognizant, where he spent over 14 years, Sundar was a member of the executive leadership team and steered the global delivery function for healthcare. In addition to managing product delivery to healthcare customers across all service lines, he played a significant role in Cognizant's latest acquisition in the healthcare product sphere, TriZetto. He integrated the implementation and consulting services of TriZetto with Cognizant's healthcare delivery organization and set up a product engineering group in India for product development. Before this, he led the growth of the nascent communication vertical that services the telecom and cable industries at Cognizant. Under his leadership, this vertical grew significantly in North America, Europe, and Asia, opening up newer markets. Prior to Cognizant, he was with PricewaterhouseCoopers and IBM, managing Fortune 100 customers as part of its management consulting services based in New Jersey. He has also worked with Citicorp Overseas Software under Citibank and its affiliates in the financial services industry. He holds a master's degree in management from NJIT and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Bangalore University. Welcome, Mr. Sundar. And we have also Mr. Ramkumar Ramamurthy, who's a Pro Vice Chancellor, Kriya University, and a former chairman and managing director of Cognizant. Ramkumar is currently the Pro Vice Chancellor for Professional Learning at Kriya University. Prior to this, he was the chairman and managing director of Cognizant India, responsible for the company's Indian operations with over 200,000 employees. Before that, he worked with Tata Consulting Services. Ram has seen both sides, the academia and industry. He started off as an academician and transitioned to the industry after 6 years of teaching and academic administration. He is currently a member of the board of Undergraduate Engineering and Technology Studies of AICTE and the principal advisor at Chennai Mathematical Institute. Earlier, he was also a member of the governing council of the Skill Sector Council of NASSCOM. Last but not least, it's my pleasure to also introduce our moderator for the session today, Mr. Abhay Shankar Meghanathan, CEO and Trustee, Rajalakshmi Institutions. Mr. Abhay Shankar Meghanathan is a dynamic and young, the CV put in a new word there, entrepreneur, but I think it's an educational entrepreneur. I'll keep it that way, simple and straightforward. He hails from a well-known business family with great interests in education, automobiles, and renewable energy. He is a vice chairman of Rajalakshmi Engineering College. As part of the senior leadership, he provides vision and strategy for the overall growth and development of the institution. He's been responsible for scaling up the infrastructure of the campus and making the campus more student-friendly. He has also been responsible for several path-breaking and innovative process changes that have helped the institution maintain its high growth trajectory. Mr. Abhay also heads the retail business of Rajalakshmi Group in both passenger and commercial vehicles. Under his leadership, the automobile retail division has been a recipient of several awards from Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Rajalakshmi Wind Energy, under Mr. Abhay's leadership, not only produces 180 megawatts of clean wind energy, but also is getting ready for a major expansion to increase the installed capacity to produce 500 megawatts of clean energy. Mr. Abhay is also an avid golfer and with a number of awards and laurels to his name. He also keeps tabs on various management volumes and constantly develops his entrepreneurial knowledge. He looks forward to learning something new every day and believes in challenging himself to make him a better person in all aspects. He holds an undergraduate degree in electronics and communication engineering from College of Engineering, Guindy, and an MS from Syracuse University, New York. Welcome, Mr. Abhay Meghanathan. I now request you to take it forward. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Very good morning to everybody here. I thank Mr. Mohan, sir, to have brought this topic about and brought us all together to address this. We are here to address the topic of university industry linkage to produce industry-ready students. As Mr. Mohan had rightly pointed out, this is not a new subject, but a definitely dynamically changing one. I mean, there are lots of questions that keep arising on how to make this linkage a better one to get the desired result. The talent crunch per se is widening, and the talent gap seems to be changing. I mean, what was the talent gap of a decade ago has modified itself, has mutated itself, and presents new challenges for us. So that makes it very essential for us to keep understanding the subject better, keep brainstorming about this, and try and get questions first and answer them so that we can progress and try and try and bring the gap lesser and lesser to ensure that we are world leaders in especially the technology space and the other manufacturing and other industry areas that we've been capable of doing so. So I'm very happy to be joined by some of the stalwarts of industry and academia, and I really look forward to hearing from them and probably probing them here and there to understand, to further our cause of understanding the skill gap and the resulting talent crunch that is that requires correction at the point. So I welcome. Shall we start off with the addresses?
Yes, Abhay. Yeah. You want to start with academia first, or you want to start from the industry?
I'd leave it to the guess if
Okay.
we can get a.
I can go first.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mohan. Thanks, Abhay, and thanks for inviting. It's very, very happy to be here. And it's also very relevant because I'm in the middle of this burning problem today. So that makes it more relevant and more important from a very selfish point of view. Let me put it that way. First of all, thanks for all the industry has grown tremendously in the last 20, 25 years. And without the university system, I don't think this would have been possible. So first and foremost, a big thanks to all the colleges and universities for making this possible. And Mohan talked about very eloquently about the changes that have really happened. So I thought I would really look at 3 different areas where we are seeing the change now. And the change has been pretty drastic in the last 2 to 3 years. The area one, if you look at it, and again, this is not true for all the students. It is not true for all the colleges in terms of the quality and their capability, learnability. They are fall into different buckets. So, but I want to keep it very generic. One is that in the area of technology, right? So the digital economy has really made things to move into the cloud environment in a significant way. In the last 18 months, 24 months, whether it is an AWS environment or Azure environment or to the GCP environment, that has come to play in a very, very big way, right? When we talk about skilling, when we talk to most of the academics, the universities and colleges, we deploy a lot of trainees and we train them. The skilling is done, but the skilling is predominantly stops with, let us say, a Python or a Java, or sometimes something on the AI and ML, somewhere it really stops it. So that is the primarily, if you say it is absolutely important, it is a necessary skilling, of course, that is one. But today with the cloud computing that has really happened, there are different architectures have come into play. For example, most of the work we do today, bulk of the work we do are not in plain coding and development. It is mostly on the microservices. Microservices are the services that are available in the cloud. That I'm putting it very simplistically, it's available on the cloud. So our point also for that, it is not just a core Java. There are a lot of things like a Java frameworks. A lot of those things are there. And when we talk about somebody who can be deployed quickly, a student who can be deployed quickly, is the student really fully well versed with this environments that we are talking about, the cloud environment and some of these frameworks? That is number one. So the start is we need to redefine what do we mean by skilled. Skilled is that, should we really say that the skilling is a basic skilling in a Java or a Python, or it is a basic skilling in ability to be deployed in a microservices based environment very quickly? First and foremost, that is which is building a little bit of specialty under these these families of what we do. So technology is number one. The starting point has changed in the last 2-3 years. So that is number one. Second thing, what we have seen with the change into the movement to the digital economy, into the cloud, what has also changed is the speed in which we things deliver. In the traditional model, in the olden days, it used to take around 12 months, 24 months, or even 6 months, 9 months, even to deliver a project, which is we got what in the industry we call it as a waterfall model. It takes time to really deliver it. You have that kind of time. Today, with the agile mode of delivery, we deliver it in multiple sprints. The basic unit of the delivery time has become 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So it is always in the sprint mode. That is how we deliver things. Think about the difference between a test cricket and a T20 cricket. That is the difference that we are seeing now. The agile mode is absolutely a T20 cricket. That is a very, very quick. So with this agility, what really needs is that people, and these are small teams. In the older days, we used to have a lot of members, smaller scrum teams, which will deliver and deploy. And the scrum teams, people will be not just development, they will be in development, they will be good in testing, they will be good in designing. In the development, they would be good in front end, they would be good in. This is what is called as a full stack. In the cricket terms, think about this as being an all-rounder, being very valuable in T20. Similarly, a full stack is very, very valuable in the agility-based Scrum development. That is number two. Third, very important, which is I think Mohan talked about what was in earlier days during the Y2K problem, how we defined something as a soft skills. That has become really, really core now. That has not really changed. In the sense that with the waterfall method, we have large teams. So only the team leads spoke to the end clients. So now with the smaller team, the team members of eight-member teams with 8 members, 10 members, and 12 members, smaller Scrum teams, even the junior most members, they talk to the customers. So when they talk to the customers, their interpersonal skills, their communication skills, and the basic ability of telling a storytelling, those things are really needed. So if you put it in the bucket, I would say these are the 3 different areas where we need to focus. One is in terms of the depth in some of the technology families. That is number one. The second one is that the breadth in terms of being a full stack. And the third is that the soft skills. These are the 3 big things that have really changed in the last few months. That is my point. Okay.
So trying to go ahead on your points, I mean, where do you think from the industry's perspective that academia needs to step up? I mean, I think you covered a lot of points that have changed, but from the incoming students, the incoming talent, where do you think academia has to step up?
For example, right, if you look at my daughter recently graduated, so I know about the academic curriculum in some ways. Different universities have different curriculum, but cloud computing, what is the application based to the cloud computing? Do you make the students particularly well versed in, let us say, in AWS environment or in Azure environment? When we talk about Java, Java is a language, core programming language Java that has existed for 20 years. What is really relevant in the marketplace now is that in the core Java, do you Spring or Spring Boot or Spring Batch, Hibernate? You talk about database. You talk about the database and database modeling, database technique, which have been there in theoretical thing for a long time. Even object-oriented database have been existed. Do you know how to use it in a MongoDB? See, a lot of things have changed in the last few years. So when we talk about I'm not talking about the academic and industry gap. That is what we are talking about here. But even industry gap has really weak because the technology industry has moved. Any specialized training in these areas, an application-based training in these areas, than a theoretical-based training in these areas, deploying projects in an agile mode, even the university projects, there are a lot of internal projects to be done in the university. Internally, how do you really deploy an agile team so that the students do get the flavor of all those things? And they establish a specialization in more than one area. If you know cloud, you can go to the depth. When you say cooking, you can say I know how to make a rice, or I can say I can make a marriage lunch, right? Still both are cooking, but the repertoire is very, very different. So that is what I'm talking about. A specialization, applied specialization in some areas will make a very big difference. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, I think I've gotten. Maybe we should broach this subject even more in the next hour or so.
Yeah.
Yes. So can we have Mr. Ramkumar sir to give out his opening statement?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mohan and Abhay. Let me take the cue from what Mohan said during his introductory comments. This is not a new topic. For decades, both the industry and the academia have been pointing fingers at each other for not doing enough. And there is merit with the arguments on both sides. But today, with the velocity of change around us, driven by what Sundar referred to as digital technologies, neither party can merely talk. I think we need to do something in a very, very aggressive fashion today if we need to meaningfully tap into the opportunities unleashed by digital. Let me just set the context and keep this really short with a couple of examples. Say about 20 years back when we had mainframe as a technology, I'm just using the IT analogy, that was followed by almost about 15-20 years of stability. So you had 15-20 years to reorient the faculty, to change the curriculum and the syllabi, and to teach the students. With every technology shift thereafter, whether it's mainframe to minis, to distributed computing, to internet or e-commerce, we had this luxury of 5 years or 10 years time for us to adapt, change, and drive relevance. But today, what is happening is, it's no longer just one single technology. It's a coming together of multiple technologies, whether it's sensors, IoT, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, data science, call it what you may. One, it's multiple technologies impacting at the same time. And there is likely, it's unlikely to probably have that kind of a stability over a long periods of time, which is one of the reasons why both the industry and academia will have to come together in order to make a meaningful structural impact to what can be done, so that all of us collectively harness this opportunity ahead of us and participate in it. So my opening statement is, in India, anything that we do should be done at scale and will have to be institutionalized for it to have a meaningful impact. Merely a handful of very progressive institutions, let us say the top 2% or the top 5%, alone participating, interacting, and driving change is not enough. So how can we institutionalize industry academia linkage program so that it has a meaningful impact on students? One thought, and I'll stop there. I think we need some very, very carefully crafted policy level frameworks to make this happen. And this policy will have to be both practical and pragmatic. Let me give you one example of how it can be made practical and one example of how it is not practical, what we are currently following. The practical thing is, today, if you go on and look at the academic council, senate, syndicate, governing council, call it what you may, of most of the universities in India, you will find 90% of the representation from academicians, government nominees, and politicians. Less than 10% of the representation is from the industry. We need to change that. with the pace of change happening, the industry is at the forefront of what is happening. So we really need to have more people from the industry nominated, represented in academic institutions to make this change. Even in the best run educational institutions, you may probably find one or two individuals, but the proportion of industry representation has to go up exponentially. I would even argue that the pendulum has to swing to the other extreme for some time to bring about some degree of normalcy before we can get to a 50-50 ratio. And the industry will have to provide this pool of senior leadership. Professionals, make them available. Every company will have to make available about 10-20 people, and the respective universities can dip into this talent. The reason why I'm saying industry will have to come forward to make this nomination is educational institutions in the metros have easy access to industry. But then some of the best run institutions, let's say in Srivilliputtur or in Dindigul or in Tirunelveli, may not have the same access that institutions in Chennai has. So that is extremely important, and more so in the current context, given that I'm also on the undergraduate board of the All India Council for Technical Education. I understand the kind of representations that come to us. Suddenly in the last 2 years, we have seen BTech in data science and AI, BTech in sensors and IoT, BTech in cybersecurity and forensics. Maybe eventually we'll also have a BTech in 3D printing. But who is there to teach? Do we have enough qualified faculty in these institutions where such courses are being launched? So one is we need the industry to play an even bigger role in the academic councils, senates, and syndicates. And the counter to this is what is not pragmatic. Whenever I participate in events like this, everybody keeps talking about internships. The internships came about at a time when India's GDP growth was in low single digits, and where much of the growth was driven only by manufacturing companies, not services companies. Today, services is almost a larger portion of the contribution to GDP. Earlier, people provided in-plant training and internships to probably half a dozen students per company, maybe a few hundreds. Today, 1 million people are entering the workforce every month. Are the traditional forms of internships the right answer? Sundar and I, we come from an industry which makes 25,000 to 50,000 offers in campus every year. Some of the large companies. Can we provide internship to all these students? Probably not. And every time I've been to a campus to interview a student to ask him, what is the internship that you did or what is the project study that you did? Invariably, every third student came up and said he developed a timesheet system, a library management system, or an attendance management system. But you know where these projects are being created? In some mandis, in some certain places for a few thousand rupees. I think we need to go back and relook at how a new model of internships can be created. Our MOOC programs for the Coursera's and others, the new model for internships. Can companies provide problems on a portal that students can pick up and then solve? Can companies provide mentors to these problems? I think we need a very different dynamic in the marketplace. I will stop there and maybe come back and take questions at a later stage.
Thank you, sir. I have one question in line with your opening statement. So like you said, most institutions today have a large majority as academicians in their boards and the councils. My question is, coming from an academic institution, I feel that it's a lot of work for us to get industry people to come in and participate in these councils. It's a lot of, though we do, I don't think it is our intention that we have more majority as academicians. What do you think academic institutions should do to attract more industry professionals? What is that academic HODs, principals, what do they do?
That's what I said, right? If tomorrow we were to change the UGC, AICTE, and other state level policies and norms and ensure that minimum 50% of the people should be composed of industry professionals. See, I'm not a big fan of affirmative action. We have tried that in India. We said affirmative action should probably happen with companies spending a certain percentage towards CSR. Nothing happened. Government had to intervene and then say 2% CSR will have to be spent. Otherwise, the CFO will have to be made accountable. Well, we went out and then we said we need to probably have a certain proportion of women as independent directors on the board. Nothing really happened until a regulation had to be passed. So I am a big fan of both structure and culture. Fine, we need those enabling provisions to be created on the one side. And on the academic side, I strongly believe that the role of a teacher is not just limited to teaching. I think teachers need to be both. Teachers also need to be researchers and consultants. More teachers do research and consulting naturally than the organizations where they do consulting. They will be beholden to probably send some senior people to these academic institutions to be on these governing committees so that the relationship is a little more symbiotic. But then if we reduce the role of a teacher to just teach and not do research or to probably do consulting jointly with the industry, then we do have a bit of a challenge. That would be my my opening comments on this topic.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we have Mr. Karthik to please address us with his opening statement?
Yeah, hi, morning. So I'll probably take off from where Ram left so that we have some continuity. I think there are two sides, right? But generalizing an academia industry initiative is seems to be going a little vague. I would prefer that we clearly identify that the IT sector has a much larger role to play and a much larger need. And that engagement needs to be very, very different from from what you call orthodox industries. In academia, I see a need for academic administrators as a career, especially in the premium institutions. It seems to be a little, what do you say, a little oriented towards existing faculty members taking on that role, and it is in turns, etc. I think there is a need for professional academic administrators. It's difficult, especially where you've been a senior professor for about 25 years. It's a little daunting to listen to a 38-year-old fellow who's not seen any academia. So we've got to work out figure out how it works. But I see a need for this because this kind of removes him from the academic point of view. And the overall objectives of the institutions rather than the preferences of the individuals, it comes to the fore. I think that's one important structural change that we need to bring in. And we'll also need to take from where Ram left. See, the faculty have genuine problems doing certain courses which industry needs. Not because they don't know, but it's because it's completely out of their priority area. They are professionals. They have their own priorities. So they prefer teaching in subjects which have research potential and where they can further their research. So this is important to recognize and provide for. If you don't, you're going to be just talking about it, and it's becoming as though academia stepping forward. I mean, what exactly does that mean, that they're not stepping forward? I think academia steps forward as much as they want to and as much as they see a need. But I think there is a huge gap in perception. So we need to understand this. One thing which we are hopefully going to experiment or pilot at IITM is we're going to try and bring in some people from the retired industry lot and have them teach these courses, which are important for industry, but are not really going to help things. The reason why I say retired is, if you ask industry people to come and take a course, and if that guy switches jobs after 3 years, it's gone. If he shifts department, it's gone. And if his boss changes, it's gone. So it's not sustainable at an institutional level or an organization level in business. So retired people from industry would be able to take these courses. The need can be provided by the industry, but the actual coaching has to be by others who have retired or people like me who are on a sabbatical, right? So this is one thing which will help. I also see a need I'm seeing colleges conduct entrepreneurship training for the students. I think I have noticed a need for the faculty members to undergo entrepreneurship training. They need to understand how business works, how market works, how economy works, etc. There is a huge gap in comprehension there. And I see it on account of lack of information rather than lack of will or lack of capability. So I think there's merit in bringing in some level of entrepreneurship training for faculty members itself so that they understand where it is. And one very important action which I have always been looking forward to is very, very regular and aggressive socializing. Projects and partnerships happen through people. They don't happen through structures and schemes. And that happens when, let's say, Ravi is able to pick up the phone and talk to Ram and make an arrangement. That's the best way to go about it, because there is a lot of trust with each other. They understand how it works, and they will support each other in their respective organizations. So very regular and very aggressive socializing, I think, will help a lot. So this is from the academic point of view. Some of the points, there is so much to be done, and there are so many different things depending on the industry, but I'll stop on the academic front and move to the industry front. Right? See, if you notice, business is, it's driven by money. There is no other criteria. If media interaction is important, they have a separate team to deal with media. So if that business is it's so critical for the business to interact with academia, they'll set up a team. As of today, you can see the software industry is doing this now because it's actually costing them their growth and the quality of their delivery. And it's impossible for them to keep training all the time. They have to deliver. They can't just make training their primary occupation. So there is more traction, which is lovely. But if you look at orthodox industries, you do not see a separate team of professionals being set aside with a senior manager who is in charge of academia interface. Why is that so? Simple. It does not appear to be a big deal on their P&L and balance sheet, even over a 10-year period. Now, the minute it starts becoming a constraint, you will see industry form teams out of sheer necessity, not because of some fancy branding or some personal whim of one of the top managers. And I think mainstream industry has had, I did market research with HR people, non-IT, manufacturing guys for the mobility course I'm doing in IIT. We got a lot of technical needs from the line managers. So I'm setting that aside because it's all over the place. Depending on the company's business, different people want different skills. But one common stream of soft skills, 3 points there, consistently coming. The student does not understand the power of peer collaboration when he comes into the company. So every time, and I've been a line manager, I know that some of my kids have lost all of 3 weeks when they could have just walked 20 feet across to another desk and sorted it out in 2 hours. Now, collaborative working is something which is not coming to them, and peer projects. I think peer reviewed and team projects will be a great tool for that. The other one was that they do not know practical application. I think industry is partially guilty here. They don't offer enough projects to academia for guys to actually do practically relevant projects. And they also complain about business perspective not being there for the students. I think that's important. And business is not an entrepreneurship course, but business is about market, commerce, consumer, money, profits, balance sheet, etc. This is business. So they need a little bit more of that. These 3 feedback has come consistently on the soft skills. And the last point, actually a request. I just read an article by one Professor Cheryl Sorby, I think University of Cincinnati. Actually, she's got the problem in engineering education spot on. So congrats to her. But unfortunately, she talks about what is required, but actually not yet about what are the solutions and how to get there. Because it's a huge change in the paradigm. So it becomes a little difficult to figure out how to do it. But I think that's a good article. And there's a lot of merit in people reading that article. It's probably 10, 15 minutes of reading. That's all, nothing much. So I think I'll stop with this. There's just too much to talk about. So you just have to draw an artificial line to stop. So I'll stop here. Thanks. Hi, Ravi.
So, Mr. Karthik, I had a lighter vein comment. Actually, in academia, collaborative work is discouraged actively.
Okay.
If you walk down the room, hostel room and ask somebody else, you'll get penalized.
That is true, isn't it? The very examination system does not really, it's about competition and not really collaboration. And the people seem to think that these two are mutually exclusive, while in reality it isn't. So I guess with enough gray hair, you realize it, I guess. Thanks, Abe.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we'll circle back again with the audience questions post the opening statements. So I invite Mr. Satish Chandra to please give his opening statement.
Thanks, Mr. Abhay. Thanks, Paul's program management team for having me in this August panel. One of the areas that, in the initial call also we discussed. Improving I'm coming from the perspective of academic institutions. So improving the students or academic institutions, the main key pillar is the faculty. So, how do we engage more faculty with industry interaction? That will get passed on to the students in terms of the kind of better problem statements that they can create, or better technologies that they can implement in the institutions, etc. So I will take a minute to sort of explain what we are doing at our institutions to improve the quality of the faculty members. So we have created something called Vishnu Education Center and Innovation Center. So where the primary role of this institution or organ is to kind of encourage faculty to peer collaborate, form interdisciplinary teams, run structured programs so that they personally improve themselves in various categories. We've been discussing in the panel about various kinds of institutions. So, the premium institutions have a different kind of faculty, and their needs and focus is different from the next level of institutions that are probably these, they are good institutions, but they are not as much tuned to the research work that is available or consultancy that is available. So how do we gear up the faculty? How do we make them more part of the mainstream? So this is where our emphasis has been. One of the main focus for such institutions is teaching. So we also need to improve on their teaching learning abilities. So that is one of the main areas. And second is their research ability and consultancy capability. So for us, it's been a barrier that we've been trying to break, that the institution faculty, they think of research or any problem from a perspective of their branch or the academic studies that they have gone through. For example, electronics faculty would like to take up a problem which they think it is pure electronics. They don't really sort of create collaboration with other faculty members, try to write proposals, etc. So this is one initiative that we have taken up, where we try to form interdisciplinary faculty teams, and we encourage them to reach out to the industry, get problem statements, and give them mentoring. And we have associated with one of the alumni of IIT Madras itself to kind of help us do this. And we've been able to break barriers. We have had really, we have a dental college. So we had a dental doctor who's a teaching professor there, part of many of such teams. So they have come up with good solutions. They are able to write proposals and get even funding from the industry. So that is one of the good examples that I can quote, that the collaboration between the interdiscipline, several disciplines of engineering, or even going beyond engineering, will help them really address the rational problems. For example, we have a lab called assistive technology, where there is a lot of research about how do we help people with disabilities or cognitive abilities where there is a special need. So we need people who are having that mindset, who are professionally trained to be psychologists, or who understand behavioral patterns and things like that. So the faculty who are part of mechanical engineering or biomedical engineering need to collaborate with such people and come up with ideas. So this is one of the example that I can quote. And Ramkumar sir has been talking about any initiative that needs a scale in India. So also he mentioned about a lot of MOOC platforms that are available today. So with the digital technologies being available, how do we grapple the need for the workforce who are having such skills? Definitely the edtech sphere has helped many people, and continuing to create a lot of workforce who are really equipped with such skills like AI or data sciences, or full stack technologies today, because of the technology that is available, and the assignments that they can do, or the projects that they can do and submit, and you have a lot of peer members who are available to review these projects. The learning outcomes have improved. And I see, while during the pandemic, we tried to engage with platforms like Coursera and offer it to our students. Students have taken it on themselves. The consumption of these courses has been sporadic. They like the content, they like the way of teaching, they like the assignments that are available, or the problem statements that are available for them to do. So it really helped solve a big barrier that otherwise we could not have solved. Bringing experts from industry who can teach these digital technologies. Because of such platforms being brought in last 3-4 years, and they are evolving really well, it is addressing the skill gap, or the ability to train large number of students. And we have also created very similar platform within the institution, where we can bring faculty within our institution, and also tie up with the industry subject matter expert, create a course which can be peer assessed. And when we talk about assessment, so we would like to make it a project based learning platform. So we have every single assignment kind of put on platform, where student gets to the mastery, which is evaluated, given feedback, and there are forums attached to it where we encourage students to collaborate and discuss, and that's how the learning happens for them. So we are having multiple courses run through platforms like such. So also I would like to quote few of our examples where we felt it the industry engagement has kind of helped, because faculty is a key member of such engagement. We have created a VLSI center where a company which is based out of Hyderabad called Scient, they helped us create this center, and they have also trained faculty and students for about 60 hours. And next what they did is they have invited the faculty to stay with them, as part of their team for about 6 months, where they could rub shoulders with the industry personnel. And when these faculty came back, they owned the center, and for last 5-6 years we are seeing they're running a specific program. We have now a complete separate vertical created for VLSI in the undergraduate studies. So normally you see it as a master's program, a specialization, but we carved out the syllabus in a way that there is there's a curricular alignment that is brought, so that students go through the required curriculum from the second year onwards, and they end up getting into industry. We've had good companies come and hire them. So that is one example that I can quote of. So with this, these are initial comments from me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satish Chandra. I also would like to ask the participants to please put in their questions in the chat boxes if there are any. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Ravindran, Professor Ravindran, to please give his opening statement.
Thank you, Abhay, and thanks to PALS for putting together this fantastic panel. So as the introductions were going around, right, I was thinking that this is a panel that really doesn't have a pure academician or a pure industrialist. Right? I mean, if you think about it, of course, I'm the most academic of the audience, of the panelists, right? And even I am coming off a 1 year sabbatical at Google, right? I just finished my 1 year at Google and I'm here. And in some sense, Sundar is the most industry person. He's actually the only person who's still in the industry, I think. Everyone is moved from industry academia. Karthik also, I'm going to count as an IITM faculty right now. And even Sundar is involved with emphasis education efforts, right? So it's not like you're not unadulterated by being an academician. So it's a very nice panel where you have people straddling both sides to some extent or the other, right? So thanks to PALS for the panel. Right. I mean, I had a bunch of opening remarks that I wanted to make, but I know I have 2 pages of responses that I want to do to all the opening statements that already went through. So let me see how I can squeeze all these things in, right? So one of the topics that I wanted to touch on, which maybe luckily didn't come up already, is, there are, as was rightly pointed out, there are colleges at different tiers, right? And then there are some top-notch schools which potentially have greater access to the industry, right? And who could have collaborations and have actually maybe tapped this question of how to get industry academia collaboration going, right? So my thoughts were on how can such institutions help tier 2 or tier 3 colleges get into the pipeline, right? So it's so doing anecdotal success stories, right, are not going to be enough. I think the scaling up issue was already brought up multiple times, and the question is how do institutions that have somehow address this question of getting greater involvement of the industry, right? How can they help propagate this understanding to a larger ecosystem, right? So it should very well be that we should, one of the things that we have been trying at the center is whenever we have this kind of industry academia connect session, whenever we invite industries to come to IITM and participate in some events, we also send out invites to as many local colleges as we can around in and around the Chennai ecosystem. Because we can't provide accommodation to everybody, so we just limit ourselves to the Chennai ecosystem. And then we do find a lot of teachers come in from the colleges around Chennai and actively take part. In fact, they ask questions. In fact, I've had people who book buses from VIT and from Vellore and come to Chennai and attend some of the industry events that we conduct. Right. So that is an appetite in places, as long as organizations that have had some amount of success in reaching out, right, are able to start looking at how they can widen their interactions, right? So in that context, so what has happened in the last year and a half, right, is made us more comfortable sitting in front of a laptop and talk, right? Which a lot of people would have frowned on earlier, right? So I mean, we used to go for physical meetings and other things, right? So now, I'm not talking about MOOCs. I'm talking about live events. I'm talking about events where you have people sit in front of a machine and then have these kinds of interactions going on, right? So that has been enabled in a scale really hitherto not thought of, right? Which if this had been November of 2019, and if I say that we should hold large-scale online events where we have industry people talking about various problems or training the teachers without leaving the comfort of Bangalore or Chennai or wherever, right? That would have been unthinkable. Right? But now something like that is actually possible, right? And I would say some of the top tier schools, right? Not just when I say top tier schools, I'm not talking about IIT, right? The IITs are literally points of mass zero of in the whole educational ecosystem. There's only so much that we can do, but there are other institutions that have also tackled this question, right? So there are some private universities that are doing great jobs here, and there are the NITs and also places like CEG, which have very good industry collaborations, right? So make your events, make events like this, right, open to everybody. PAL should not be the only one that's organizing these, and saying that the academia should step up and do some of these, right? Hey, I'm going to switch to my response mode, okay? Because I have too many things that are running on top of my head right now. Okay, so going back to one of the initial comments that Sundar was making about depth, right? So you were talking about how people just learn Python and then they have to go into depth and learn more tools on that, right? So that it just struck me that the academic definition of depth and the industry definition of depth are so very different. So for me, depth would have been, understanding, the algorithms, understanding the data structures, and not just, writing code for canned problem solutions. So if I want to say I want to train somebody who is in depth in computer programming, I wouldn't pick up another 5 sets of tools, but I would think of teaching them about more formal way of designing algorithms and looking at solutions, right? So, but then the industry is maybe not too taken up with that kind of an approach of depth right now. But then this is something that struck me, right? So people are talking about how technology keeps changing. So every 5 years, every 3 years, technology changes. So if academia is going to put out somebody who is trained in the current darling of the industry, right? And the current darling changes in the next year. So what would happen to these academic guys who are getting put out, right? So they should, I think the academic definition of depth is fine. And that should be just like, you have finishing schools for soft skills. So we should think of other mechanisms by which, we train students. And this point has come up in various aspects. I just want to directly connect it back to the initial question that you had. And is it fine? This is a parallel discussion, right? So we're supposed to go back and forth instead of me giving my own canned opening statements. I'm going to respond to people's statement. If people want to respond back, please feel free so that we can start our discussion.
Yeah, I think I would like to.
Sundar, I saw you unmuted yourself. We want.
Sundar here. I would like to add to your this thing. I think what you say is absolutely valid. I'm not saying do away with algos, do away with networking fundamentals, none of those things, right? Because these are essentially the foundations of the building blocks of any modern architecture. What I was looking at is that in addition to that, can we build some depth in some other specializations so that they are deployable quickly? That's about it.
No, I completely agree with that's what I'm saying, right? So you should think of, extra curricular venues and not touch the curriculum, because the layer that you're talking about is probably going to change every year. And however, agile, we talk about, our educational curriculum is not that agile. Right? So we can't be changing it every year. So, or every 2 years or something like that. Right? So we probably have to come up with extracurricular mechanisms by which these kinds of, the current technology can be imparted. I'm saying, yes, we have to do it in schools. In fact, I have a suggestion for it. So I know that NASSCOM has done a great job in putting together this skills thing, right? So a lot of hundreds of courses are already out there, and these are all taught by industry professionals quite often. But almost always, the target audience have been people in the industry who have been there for 4 or 5 years, and then getting to reskill there, right? So why can't these courses also be aimed at college students? So why can't we say that, hey, maybe if the pricing is a problem, NASSCOM can step in, do some kind of, concessional pricing. So, or many colleges have a lot of money. The colleges can, do this licensing. And as Ramkumar was pointing out, maybe some mandating is needed somewhere, right? So you should say, oh, before you come out, we expect you to have done at least 3, some QP courses. You have all these qualification packages and other things in the NASSCOM hierarchy, right? So maybe you should have qualified through some number of QPs before you graduate, before you can sit for placement, something like that. You put that, and then I'm pretty sure that the materials are out there, right? It's just that we have to figure out a way of getting people to look at it. So that's one suggestion that I had on that. Right. So, and so the next point I want to take up, I'm going in order, right? It's not like I'm picking on you. So you're talking about industry representation in academic councils. Was that, Sundar, was it your point or Ram Kumar's point? I forget.
Ram's point.
That is Ram Kumar's point. Okay. So the industry representation academic councils, right? I'm sitting on enough of all these board of studies and academic councils around, and we have industry people coming in, and they give a lot of fantastic advice as to how to frame the curriculum. But this goes back again to the problem of who's going to teach it, right? So the industry involvement should not stop in the academic council point. It should go on, and we should start thinking about how the industry get involved in the teaching part of it. And again, the NASSCOM courses could be one way of solving this problem, and saying that, hey, look, you do all your basic, your faculty are very well trained in teaching the fundamentals of IT or whatever you want, right? But then for getting this, the cutting edge, whatever the industry person is saying that you should be adding to the curriculum, maybe you should be looking at, people, who are well versed in that, right? Who are using it in the industry, who are actually putting together the curriculum over. They should be teaching, right? And there's this other point about all-round teachers. So the biggest question for me is: do teachers really have time to be all-rounders? Right? If you look at our system, there are. I know people here who actually run educational institutions, I would say, belong to the enlightened elite among the administrators, right? But if you look at 80% of our institutions, right, the teachers don't have time. So I think we need to address that issue as well. I agree that teachers have to be all-rounders. And in fact, somebody like Feynman has actually said that, hey, whenever I get stuck in my research, I go teach. And then that kind of revitalizes me. I come back and, problems that were not solvable earlier, now I can solve. So teaching, research, consultancy, the synergy is very important. right? I completely agree with that. So, but we have to figure out how to do it in the existing ecosystem, right? So, so I think first we have to acknowledge that it's not the teachers who can fix this, right? So that should be a lot more thought that has to go into that. And yeah, so I mean, I like Emphasis is doing something really good, and I know that IBM has these kinds of courses, right? Where it's not necessarily that an individual's commitment is what is needed to get the industry folks to teach, right? I mean, this is a point that Karthik was making. So if the person changes the company or moves away, I mean, so the teaching becomes a doubt, right? So what we should really be looking at is, having the industry commitment. Right? So that way you don't have a individual's question. So sorry, Mr. Satish Chandra, you had a point. Raise your hand.
Yeah, sir, on futures, this NASCOM future skills, now it is made available to a larger audience. I think all the colleges
fantastic.
it is available freely.
Okay, then we should
of course, the
about using this.
QP adoption requires somebody to, I mean, the institution to sign an MOU and get trained to deliver that QP.
No, that's what. So we should be having this in the conversation. In fact, one of the things that was actually disappointing to me today was that there are at least 2 times MOOCs were mentioned, and both times it was Coursera.
Yeah,
right.
At
least in our context, when we talk MOOCs, I really want us to say NPTEL.
NPTEL, yeah. No, in fact, day before yesterday, I was in a conversation with a drone manufacturing company. It's a startup company. So we were trying to take help from them in designing something around drones. So so that person was mentioning he's a IIT Kanpur alumni. So he said there's a lot of content available. And one of the course that he recommended comes from NPTEL. So he said we can organize through DFI, that is Drone Federation of India, some lecture series, and while we are doing that, we can also collate content which is openly available. And they pointed out that NPTEL has good content around drones. The fundamental.
So I mean, I can give you a even better anecdote. It's a personal anecdote though. So once I was attending this conference in Macau, right? And then I went into the room, and the room was jam-packed, standing room only. And so I was just standing there. And then this Chinese guy turned around, looked at me, he got up, gave me the seat. I said, why? I mean, he said, no, I learned reinforcement learning by watching your videos on NPTEL. So it's a privilege for me to give up my seat for you. And then he gave his seat to me, and then he went and started standing it. So that is the reach, sir. I mean, that's the quality of material that we have. Almost everybody who's taught on NPTEL has a story like this to say, where they were recognized for their lectures. I mean, they don't know anything else about that person, right? And so I think we should at least consciously start talking about it. If that is something that you would need from NPTEL, we are a very responsive organization, right? So you tell us, we will change. And so let me stop here, and we can probably come back on questions.
I think we have a couple of questions from our audience members pertaining to what we have lost during the lockdown with regard to practical and industrial training. Does anyone have any suggestions, to see what we can do to gain lost ground because of this, the preceding 2 years? Any suggestions as in on what academic institutions students can do to try and reach out better to, see what they can do to bridge this gap?
I think I think the answer to this is much more challenging in core industries or orthodox industries. I like the term Karthik used. So I think it's a bigger challenge in orthodox industry, but not in the IT sector. I think it's a little bit because even the IT people were not going to offices, right? They were also working from home. So yeah. So I would. I mean,
Yeah,
Sir,
putting the
so
ball in
there are
Karthik's court,
virtual
yeah.
labs that are available. PALS has been working with IITs to promote these virtual labs. So that can be one platform that students can utilize.
Yeah, it is VLab processes. It was a centrally funded activity with all IITs and NITs. It is there for the past 10-12 years. But once the pandemic started, the colleges felt the need for having workshops online. So the marketing of that happened because of COVID. There had been a few benefits of COVID also in the whole process. And so in one of the caves and chairs, we had those people coming and talking, and they made the training for that for all our PALS colleges. For all the panelists, I just want to say, whoever is part of PALS, they are generally colleges with a very, very proactive management. They go out of there to ensure that they learn what is most relevant and what is required for their college faculty and students. And in the process, we bring our own incremental benefits, which is slightly non-academic in nature, which will benefit the colleges also. So a VLab training, which was generally happening over the years, we made it an FDP program so that there will be some certification to the faculty. And then we brought in a process by which we wanted to know from the faculty how many more they train within their college. So that became another assessment point regarding our partner institutes. And we went to the extent of making the colleges create additional experiments for every VLab. It is 1 year since we have started. We thought with 30 colleges, we may be coming out with more than 150 experiments. But I think some 20, 25 had come out last year. But there is enormous interest. And even industries are telling, why should it be only for your labs in engineering education? This can be implemented even in industries. So that type of talking is also happening. And VLab is actually an internship type of an activity which the colleges do based on what they do theoretically and which they use in their labs. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess orthodox industry, I can give you a few examples. Even though I've not been there full time, I was predominantly engaged with the engineering team there, the product development team. So the first couple of months, I think there was actually a lot of breakdown of relationships, breakdown of trust, etc. So one of the guys came up with a very smart idea. COVID, right? There was a lot of problem with ventilators, etc. So we guys asked the kids to work on 3 different types of ventilators. And some of them found collaboration with MIT and they improved on the designs. There were some of them who were going illegally in the nights to do testing in the facility, etc. The commitment levels were remarkable. And what happened was the teams where these guys were part of, all those teams kind of found their feet. And they were able to start working. There are disadvantages, of course, right? You can't physically go somewhere. So that's a big deal in industry. Unlike IT, here we deal with brackets and bolts and stuff like that. So we have to put a vehicle together if we want to test it. And the vehicle doesn't put itself together. People have to go there physically and put it together. But this was one remarkable thing. Second one, I was in my sabbatical at that time, but I noticed that a lot of the departments found out that they did not need some people at all in the company. That these people were redundant. These roles were redundant, not the people. The roles were redundant. And they were actually able to move them to line function and productive roles, which is phenomenal. It's a sudden increase in capacity without hiring, right? So it was phenomenal. And in the corporate office, we also found out that 50% of us don't need to go to the office at all. The company doesn't need us to be physically there. It will work absolutely fine without us going there physically. So it was very humbling or demeaning or whatever you want to say. But essentially, these were some discoveries. And one important point was the most successful departments clearly have been those departments where in remote working. Departments where the boss of the first 8, right, is 6 or 8 people, that level boss. It was those departments where the boss dealt with them on non-work matters on a daily basis. And there was a lot of personal engagement with them on their personal issues, etc. And our HR guys stepped up and provided the backup also. But these departments were the most successful, and all thanks to just the individual boss. He took the initiative and he did it. This was a learning experience because the remote working showed what the gaps were when you're not really interacting with each other in person every day. I think production and profit and loss account has gotten irretrievably hit. So we can't retrieve that. It's gone. That wealth that we could have created is gone. And there is no way we can recover it. So that's from the industry perspective, one or two companies' perspective.
I would like to add sorry, somebody was going there.
Yeah, go ahead, Sundar.
Yeah, so I would like to add a point here, right? Though the technology industry, IT industries were not hit with respect to the accessibility, apart from the initial 2 weeks where we have to shift a whole lot of logistical nightmare in terms of getting things ready, right from your laptops, desktops, to dongles, to even UPS stabilizers, right? Because the motherboard got fried because of the power fluctuations. Once all these things, our environment are people, right? It is IT industry is as big as a people industry in many ways, and where you have a lot of people sitting on what we call as an ODC, which is offshore development centers, and where the team leads really walk around and help people around. So that is how the learning happens. And suddenly you are into a situation where that environment is not there. There is nobody to mentor, there is nobody to ask questions. People just walk around. The walking management by walking around happens very clearly on the ODC floor. So this is something we discovered 2 weeks turn-up, that the people don't have that kind of hand-holding. We never had a formal structure. Just walk around, you'll say there is a problem here, then somebody will come and solve it. It can be team lead, it can be a friend or whoever it is, right? That happens. So we created virtual pods. So for each leader, we called each leader from the managers above, there was assistant managers above, and attached 4 different individuals to them. So daily, twice, they would call those team people and ask, how are you doing? What is happening? Is there any help that you need? Which can be right from the power fluctuation to this thing and the technical issues. That really, we called it as a virtual pod. That really created an ecosystem which kind of resembled the offshore development environment that we had. So that really helped in a big way. And the second thing is that, so the point is that though there was a social distance, in terms of the communication, we came a lot closer than ever before. And the same thing happened when the other front, the communication with respect to our customers, right? Without customers, there is no business. That's that's a plan. So every day we established a cadence in which we communicate, we over-communicate with the customer. So in all these things, what has really helped us in a big way is that the communication has really taken a boost. Still, we want the physical contact. We want people to come back to offices. We don't want this to be, it may be in hybrid mode in some way, but still we want people to come back to office because that interpersonal relationship goes very long.
I may quickly add a point.
I have a question for you. See, in Germany, if you want to do a degree program, you have to do a 3-year diploma and then move into an engineering degree. So this 3-year diploma, let's say in mechanical or electronics or whatever, it gives you a practical aspects of the technology aspects. And then when you take the formal degree, and so when you come out of that program, you are more employable. I'm just wondering, it seems probably you know more than me, that's a very successful model and very often quoted worldwide, saying that this is why Germany produces one of the best engineers after graduation. So we do have polytechnics, but it is not mandatory. And unfortunately, the way we have positioned polytechnics is far below, right? Which is unfortunate. But is there a possibility to merge these two and probably take a route like Germany so that when the engineers pass out, they are of good quality?
Another nice thing in Germany is they're compelled to learn music or other aspects of life. They are not just studying the subject. So it's a much more rounded person who comes out of that system.
Now, even on core subjects, I think the practical...
No, your point is taken. Yeah, understood. Yeah.
I think, I don't know, we have a system called polytechnics. Maybe we can marry both. There are some lateral entries, I know that, but they don't finish the, the diploma, polytechnic, the second year and first year, they do a lateral entry to engineering. It's just a thought.
See, a lot of our DME guys, the older ones, not the new ones, but older ones, I see them doing an engineering course after joining the company. So the earlier limitation was on money. They could not afford the graduate course. So even if the system offered it, you really may not find that many takers, right? And this is one. I don't know what NEP says about it, but it'll be interesting to see. But there are a few colleges which are now coming up, which are doing this indirectly. They've stopped looking at BTech in mech and BTech in electrical, and they're talking about BTech in energy, BTech in mobility, BTech in life sciences, etc. So when you start doing that, the practical side starts thinking. In fact, what Kriya is doing in the art side, I think there are a few engineering colleges which are coming out on the science side. So I just hope it takes off. And in fact, even premium institutions like IIT start supporting such programs and promoting such programs over the next 5 to 15 years. It'll be brilliant to have that kind of an approach because it's no longer one domain. You for business, you need to learn a product or an activity. And nowadays, nothing is exclusively mechanical or electrical or electronic. It's if I have to deal with a gearbox, God help me if I don't know about the controller. So it's completely cross-domain now. And it's very difficult to split the guy's activities inside a department in a gearbox. You expect that guy to do gearbox work and not mechanical work. That's the expectation now, which is slowly coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But it's not really started, if you know what I mean. So, Ram, you.
Ram sir is raising his hand.
No, I just wanted to share a quick couple of thoughts on the previous question, not the recent one, on having lost so much time in the pandemic, especially for courses that require laboratory work, actual hands-on activity. There are a number of videos that are available. It may not necessarily be as hands-on as you would want it to be, but it at least provides for a middle ground. These are simulated, gamified, interactive videos that are available. And I think as a fraternity, we will have to start marketing ourselves a lot better. There is so much out there. How do you pick the signal from the noise out there? You can't expect everybody to go to Google and then keep searching for this. But if a small team can put together the top 5 links that students of mechanical or students of civil will have to go to find these gamified laboratory experiments that are available in video format, I think we'll be doing a lot of justice to the student community and to the faculty at large. Which I think is also the same problem that I think Professor Ravindran alluded to. Why is it that all of us are referring to Coursera and not to NPTEL or SWAYAM? We are not marketing enough. Fine, NPTEL and SWAYAM has some exceptionally good programs. But having said that, there is a major difference between NPTEL and Coursera. NPTEL is taught exclusively by the faculty. not just from IIT, but also probably largely from CMI, IAC, ICER and others. But then many of the programs taught on Coursera are taught by people from the industry, and the curriculum is also jointly developed by the Adobes and the MasterCards and the Southwest Airlines, not necessarily the Googles and the Intels and Oracles of the world. So I think as a community, while humility is a virtue, sometimes we seem to make it seem as if marketing is a vice. I think we need to learn to market ourselves a lot better. And I would point to what Karthik said earlier, right? Corporates do have exclusive departments to do these jobs. But academic institutions, faculty cannot do everything. Fine, faculty cannot administer, cannot be the marketing person, cannot probably be the HR person, so on and so forth. I think we need to bring in a greater professionalism to market some of these programs in order for students to stand to benefit. If we don't do it, what will happen? I think at the beginning, Mohan spoke about the Y2K wave, right? During the Y2K period, we didn't have enough talent in the country to service the Y2K opportunity. That's when your NIITs and AppTechs and CSEs and several of these intermediaries came into the picture, and I'm beginning to see these intermediaries come into the picture today. About a month back, I actually participated in the launch of L&T EduTech here in Chennai. Today, L&T wants to use all the resident knowledge, the 70 years of all their experience in engineering, in construction, in power, in energy, and all the different areas to create video-based learning. As a combination, it's going to be they're bringing academicians and experts, practitioners from L&T to co-curate programs so that they create newer models of experiential and gamified learning rather than the traditional forms of learning. So my one take is, if academic institutions don't go down that path and then take this up as an opportunity, you would probably find another wave of NIITs and AppTechs and EduTech companies come into play this role.
So just, sorry, a quick thing, sir. So NPTEL also has courses that are taught by people from the industry.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Again,
See,
the marketing failure. Marketing failure from our
There are very few.
There are very few, yeah.
See, they say same thing, right? Even on this panel, whether the future skills program of NASSCOM, does it reach to the educational institutions, which also means that NASSCOM hasn't done a good job of promoting it to say that
I agree.
This is also applicable to the college students. So I think all of us need to get a little aggressive with marketing what is out there, fine, so that the students and the faculty benefit at large. That is the larger point.
Just to add to your point, Ram, the one thing which has started happening in the e-mobility space already, there are more academies than BTech and MTech courses as of today. So the academies have started gaining, and some of them are actually doing pretty expensive courses, about 85,000 bucks for a 6-week course. And 6 weeks is just about 2 hours a day, or even less sometimes. So it's about 10 hours a week. So I think, to your point, this is already happening in those places where response is slow or response is not there. This is one. The other one was, I forget the name of the Japanese gentleman, but on how the pandemic physical experimenting work got affected. He was talking about that Japanese Kosen system, right? That 5-year curriculum for engineering education. And he was saying that videos are a very powerful tool, even though you can't do physical labs, because the mind actually learns 80% of what it learns through observation and only 20% through execution. So you can't execute because you're not physically there, but at least the 80% part you get to gain through platforms like NPTEL or others, or even what L&T is trying to create. So for want of that for needing 100% success, you're actually giving up an 80% opportunity, was his point. And they seem to have actually gone gaga over video classes for labs, for lab courses. So quite interesting feedback from him. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So I think we've kind of, shall I open out to some audience questions as well?
Yes, yes, Abhay.
Yeah, Abhay sir, we have received more than 10 questions, sir. Can I share the screen, sir? I have noted in a screen.
Please.
Will be able to see my screen, sir? These are all the live questions we received so far.
So, sorry, can I pick up one of the questions I saw in the chat window, which I don't think we really touched upon? I mean, all the discussion so far we have been having is about, okay, how industry academia partnership will benefit industry in some sense, right? Getting students to be more industry ready, more employable and things like that. Is there a feedback into the academic ecosystem as well? I mean, I think there are multiple questions on this. Right? So,
And the third question, the fourth question is very much repeated, sir. All these, why it is important.
Yeah, exactly. Does it benefit both parties? So that I thought that is an aspect that we haven't touched upon. Right? So because other things are a little hard to answer. This is easier to answer. So
I thought neither industry or academia is important. The student was important. So whatever is done, the student needs to benefit, and that's the primary focus or purpose of academia. Educating. So of course, it will come indirectly from that, but I'm saying if you always stay focused on the end consumer and customer, you will win. So you do what is necessary for the child, and it will automatically happen.
I mean, it's not just a one-time thing, right? There is a significant, positive feedback that goes on both ways. So
absolutely.
So I mean, it's just not a question of training the student for one-time employment opportunity or anything like that. I mean, the entire mindset of your academic experience changes, right? As opposed to just learning rote from books versus learning from people, from with professional experience.
Actually,
teachers are exposed to that, right?
If you look at AI, Scrum, startups, this has kind of completely destroyed the need of from the student. They're no longer expected to know or remember things. They are now expected to be solvers of the problem. And they need to understand and do the spade work. So the metric itself is changing rapidly thanks to these three. Nobody is expecting a guy to come with in-depth capabilities in multi-body dynamics now. What you want is, if I've got a ride and handling problem, I need that sorted out. And what is the best way to go about it? And they just leave it at that. This is one of the tools. So I think the demand from the students have really changed in industry now. People are looking at them to start solving rather than working.
Okay, what's the difference between solving and working? Sorry, I
see by that
is it solving problems by definition of? I mean, isn't that part of your work? Solving problems?
Actually, the majority of organized industry doesn't work that way. So you've got established processes and protocols, right? So that's why you don't even probably appreciate it, because you're coming from AI doing, and you are the guys who have actually brought this in. The need to actually complete the assignment rather than do your part as per a defined lean development process or whatever, right? So if there is a right problem, you solve and report the numbers. You don't walk across, work with the rubber guy and sort it out along with him. And these things are being expected now. And problem solving is becoming more and more important.
Yeah, the whole idea of our center is to actually enable that. I mean, so you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
But going back to the discussion.
Yeah, I would like to offer a point of view on this. See, when I talked about how it has become to T20 from test matches, right? What each agile team does a particular survey. So actually the core of Agile is problem solving. It is a problem solving, but many problems are really micro problems that you get solved, which is whether you create an API or a microservices or whatever it is, then it becomes larger. So the definition of the problem solving in our industry, right, has become very important now, instead of just knowing the language. So it is really the Agile Scrum and what we are doing in the shared economy now has really helped in students to, or not just students, the people who are working to. In fact, we trained a whole lot of middle level managers into the IT architecture, because architecture is one of the key components of problem solving. You know, what does the end customer need and what kind of architecture we should really have to address. So the locus has shifted a little bit when it comes to our industry with these new modes of working. That's all. Thank you.
If I may quickly
One of the
add a point.
Go ahead, sir.
I think what Karthik and Professor Ravindran brought up upfront, I think it is a fascinating conversation, right? See, you talk to orthodox academicians. I'm also falling in love with this word orthodox now. Orthodox academicians, and you talk to students. Invariably, in the academic community, there is this prevailing opinion that they are there to produce well-rounded individuals through the 4-year program and not align themselves the needs of a given industry or the needs of industries at large. I entirely agree. What is needed in the academic ecosystem is the foundational capabilities which can be used across different industries. Skills will change, but the foundational inputs will not change. Industry can provide those skills as and when things change. But then when you go and then talk to any student, having interacted with students for over 35 years, I'm yet to come across one student who answers that question, why did you join this college? Nobody has told me that to become a well-rounded individual. Fine, they all want jobs at the end of the day. So I think the truth lies somewhere in between to ensure that whatever is taught, whether these are foundational skills which bring about logical reasoning, numerical aptitude, problem solving capabilities, I would add, it's no longer just problem solving, it's also problem finding capabilities. Because up until a few years back, our customers knew what the problems were and they called us to solve it. But today, customers don't even know what the problems are. They want us to come in and then jointly explore what kind of problems can potentially come and then hit them. So in today's context, I think we need to probably move a little beyond the traditional aspects of what has been taught to see what kind of structural changes are happening. I think Karthik gave a wonderful example from his industry. Earlier, coding and programming were very, very core. When Sundar and I entered the industry, perhaps it applied to Mohan as well, many of us, especially those from an engineering background, they'll be put through a Unix and C test before they are actually recruited by these companies to test their programming capability. Today, you probably have program generators. You have low code, no code platforms where codes are generated, and you just need to probably look at whether the code that is generated is applicable to a given context. These are all drag and drop, plug and play, so on and so forth. So are we really getting into the core aspects? Are there newer aspects included in the curriculum? Do you have security as part of the 4-year degree program? Do you have sustainability embedded in every single aspect of the 4-year degree program to make it a little more relevant? Fine. I think that's extremely important, and that's where the industry academia linkage comes in really handy, where I entirely agree. It's just not being in the academic councils. Obviously, they'll also need to come and then teach, jointly curate programs, faculty development. Fine. The biggest challenge today is how do we develop faculty at scale so that all educational institutions across India actually benefit from the opportunities out there. So those are a few thoughts that I wanted to probably leave.
So I have been thinking about one of the idea that we have not discussed. It is the competitions side. So a lot of problem statements that are existing with the industry. Today, many of the industries are offering in the form of creating problem statements for their competitions or hackathons. So largely, IT is mostly it is competitive coding, that kind of thing, which is also kind of increase the knowledge based in the programming front. 10 years back, if we put them through ICPC coding camp or that kind of thing, we would, in 2 days variably, we would see only 1 or 2 students standing in the workshop. But today we have hundreds of students who are able to solve problems using algorithms and things like that. It is because large industries like TCS, Infosys, or Cognizant, they have recognized the fact that they need to identify better coding talent and started these competitions, and that is increasing the colleges to adopt methods where they can train the students. So this is on IT. On the manufacturing or the automotive industry, bodies like SAE, they conduct these ATV competitions, and I can tell you, we have been a big benefactor of this competition. 7-8 years back, when we were going to mechanical industry and automotive industry to kind of ask for some support in placement, they would invariably say, we need only 20 engineers. Why should we come to your institution? We have IITs to go to, NITs to go to. So we have to come up to the challenge and display our capability. So we sent, one of the industry said, why don't you try this SAE Baha competition? So we sent our team. This requires large student force. About 25 students will be part of the team, and they have to do many things. They have to bring up a vehicle from the ground. They need to design. They have to put physical features of the vehicle, design the brake, and then do the analysis in terms of many aspects. And how do they innovate in the vehicle? And so our students have been doing well. They were part of top 3 teams for continuously 3-4 years. And today, this institution is in a place called Bhimavaram. Maybe it is equivalent to a place like Srivallipuram or that kind of corner of the state. And yet we find industries like Ashok Leyland or Mahindra, they reach out. It is because they have identified students exhibiting talent in the competition. It is not because the college is able to reach out or tell them that we have better laboratories or etc. And another thing is, because we are able to market it. Today we have Volvo sponsoring a powertrain, or BMW sending their engine. Like that, there is also infrastructure which is coming in our way. So and there are a lot of other competitions like Smart India Hackathon, or they talk to many industry and government bodies and put together the problem statements. And one thing that I see is, the faculty or institutions also have to play a role there by nurturing the students. What kind of problem statements they are choosing among these competitions? Are they switching the problem statements? So for a competition, they design one solution or a POC, and to the next competition, if they change that and go with another concept, then they are not doing right thing, because if they start doing the same competition and pitch the same idea to multiple competitions, they might become an idea where they can start an enterprise. These are examples that we have seen within our institution, so I can confidently talk about them. Yeah, thank you.
We are almost reaching the end of our allotted time. Are there any follow-on questions, and would you like to summarize after that?
Yes, I think we've had a lot of discussion on this topic, and I should speak for. We have more questions.
Yes, sir. We have some more questions in the box.
I think most of them are on similar lines.
Yeah.
Would any of the panelists be interested in answering any of the other questions? There's one similar trend is about the core branches. Core branches, losing out on trends, while losing out on demand while computing courses are increasing in demand. Is there anything that core faculty, core students do to make themselves more attractive to the industry? Would that be something that we can shed a little bit of light on before we close?
Very interesting question.
I guess it's just dependent on the number of people who are being hired, right? So it's very clear that the hiring in data sciences and IT is something like 100 times what the rest of the industry hires. So this is not about losing out, it's just about the market share. And it's important that you know what the latest employment opportunities are. And this is not an equal opportunity world. The world keeps moving, and you train yourself to be part of that. So it's very difficult to actually say how will orthodox courses cope or whatever. Orthodox courses will cope to the extent that they are required to. Otherwise, just let IT and data sciences flow, because it's bringing in huge wealth and it's bringing in huge advantages to your way of life. So I don't think we need to be defensive about it. I'm a hardcore mechanical engineer, right? And there are quite a few projects where I use data science guys to get my job done easier. So it's not as though it's a different stream. This is a tool, the digital tool is something which you use in all streams. So you need to start looking at how do I exploit the data engineer to get my work done in, I don't know, fatigue analysis or whatever, right? So it's that's the way you approach industry. You don't approach it saying I'm a mechanical engineer or whatever.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we've had a very, very informative couple of hours here with we've broached a lot of topics, and I think we've got quite a few answers. But of course, the entire thing cannot be solved over 2 hours, and it's a continuous process improvement that has to be followed from what we understand. So,
Abhay, 1 second. There was one question on how does the student get industry ready or something. It's a 1 minute answer. I think they need to realize that all they have to do is go to the uncle, go to mother's uncle, go to wife's uncle, whatever. They need to talk to people in industry. There is no institutional solution for these things. So if you want to, how do I do it? You go find out. Talk to people who are working in companies and find out. There is no way these things can be spoon-fed to the student community. So it's important, go to your prof or teacher, ask him to give you contacts on whatever he has, talk to them. Not everybody is going to be free. So if you try 100 people, maybe you'll manage 20 meetings. But this is work to be done. This is not some strategy. It's hard work. You have to fix appointments, go meet them, get their time, be smart, quickly interact, learn, understand, and come back. I think that's the only way it gets done. No academic institution can deliver this as a course or as a subject.
Maybe just add a point there to what Karthik said, right? While growing up, there is this abiding habit of some of us in our early to late 50s to read newspapers. Fine. Every trend, every stuff that impacts any organization is captured across the business publications. So I would encourage every student to understand. See, today, people are talking about structural shifts happening in every industry. I would encourage people to understand what's happening in industry, not necessarily the physical copy, but the online editions, thought pieces, opinion pieces on some of the impacts that are happening in the industry. Today, I think reading newspapers and business magazines as a culture, people seem to have lost to understand what's happening. It just cannot be something that gets dumbed down to you by what you read on WhatsApp. So I would probably just add that extra one line. There's so much knowledge that's there in the media. Obviously, fine, you need to remove the noise and then pick up the signal even there.
Just want to add that point, if I can. No, the objective of PALS is also that actually. It's one more initiative by a set of people, and I'm sure there are a lot of others similar, where it attempts to bring the industry closer to the student. For people here, and I know all the students here are members of PALS, their colleges, my advice on one more thing is, attend all the PALS programs.
So I actually have a counter to what Karthik was saying. I mean, so I'm a little uncomfortable like putting the onus on the student, because that also relies very much on the student's access to such resources, right? So in fact, I had a master's student whose father, his uncle, his mother's uncle, his mother's brother, all of them were shopkeepers, right? So where would he go in his ecosystem to talk about what it would be like in the industry, in the IT sector, right? I mean, he used to lie on top of rice bags and study his subjects. I mean, that's basically how it was, right? I mean, I don't want to leave the onus on the students, saying that that they should be looking out in their ecosystem for people to reach out. I mean, what PALS is doing is great, but I think there should be some additional institutional effort from the colleges also to have that access to the students.
The exceptions,
and
I
after
concede.
that, it's the students' effort. Yeah.
See, for the exceptions, I concede.
Exceptions, I'm not saying it's exception. Sorry, I have to. I don't think it's an exception.
Yeah, and newspapers and reading articles. There's this famous saying put the phone in your pocket and get off your ass. So I think this watching the phone has become too very time consuming, honestly, even for me. But basically, you need to start meeting people and reading things which add value to you, etc. It's so tempting a distraction. So, but point conceded, Ravi. See, the thing is, if there is no such thing, you can't leave it with the student. But if the student has a problem, then he needs to come out with it. It doesn't come out that often. But I agree that those kind of conditions, they wouldn't know, especially about data sciences, etc. It becomes that much more difficult. Even mechanical engineering, he might find some resources here and there, but data sciences, etc., it would be more of a challenge. In such cases, I think there's a need for a platform or something like that in the college. Thank you.
One hand raised by Dr. Maheshwari of ITS.
Can we give an opportunity to talk here, Anna, for a minute?
Yeah.
She's raising her hand.
Yes, for a long time.
Please unmute and ask a question soon, ma'am. Please go ahead, Maheshwari.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I have a question to Karthik, sir. So we do agree that there is a lot of requirement for data science people. So hence more interest towards IT and CSE happens. But at the same time, there are a lot of technological development in the area of electric vehicle, green energy, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence and robotics. Definitely, there will be a requirement for core branches also. But how to bring in these interests towards the core branches to the students? So because interest towards the core branches is less. So we want some input from all the panel members. What need to be done in the core branches to increase the interest towards these branches among the students?
Well, I'm not very sure, so sorry, I'm not able to really help very candidly or explicitly. One thing would be to make the course that much more interesting so that it becomes exciting to the student. See, employment potential is the primary driver, right? So that's what's going to help the students decide which discipline they want to go to. The next one, after employment potential, the next one will be the excitement of doing the course. So but this drastically increases the responsibility on the individual, each and every individual member of the faculty. Every time they walk into that classroom, they're carrying a massive burden because they have to engage with them and make it exciting. That's very, very difficult and not consistently repeatable also. I think that's going to help a lot. The third one, of course, you can always do a fair amount of marketing where there is a possibility to build a brand around what you offer. But the best is to move away from the conventional mode, madam. I think instead of working on mechanical engineering, start the journey today and over the next 4 years, migrate to B.Tech in commercial vehicles, B.Tech in electric vehicles. Move your domain. Don't stay here. It will continue to be daunting for the kids. But the minute you yourself said that there are so many new things which are coming up, renewable energy. So B.Tech in renewable energy, make it a cross-domain course. Have faculty collaborate or go to the extent, if you're a new and private institution, destroy your existing department and form new departments. You can't do this overnight, but you should be able to do it with a program plan and with a full buy-in from all members of the faculty so that they don't feel threatened. But this is something which we have to change and we need to change. And the new education policy enables all this. We need to exploit that. That's a brilliant document. And I think the doc has done a remarkable job there, in my opinion. Now, they've even left a lot for interpretation and discretion, right? So we need to actually transform that way. Only then it's going to make sense. We should not be, I will not be loyal to mechanical engineering. I will be loyal to a discipline which I choose to do, even though I am a hardcore mechanical engineer. So that's one way of sorting it out. Others' thoughts, welcome.
Thank you, sir. So I'm expecting inputs from other panel members for this question.
I think it's a problem because a lot of engineering institutions are now becoming computer science shops. So the disciplines are slowly sort of getting removed and getting replaced with more of computer science and or allied fields like AI, DS, and all this. You have earlier had at least 3-4 engineering disciplines that used to be there. Now, purely, if you see some of the engineering colleges, they only have computer science discipline, nothing else. I think it is a point well noted on introducing the emerging domain-based engineering programs. So one problem that we faced with such kind of experiment is we have introduced something called pharmaceutical engineering. It's a course that is borrowed and made between chemical engineering and pharmacy, because Hyderabad is a pharmacy belt. I mean, we are struggling to keep up that course, and we also have something called biomedical engineering. Last 25 years, it's a struggle to keep up that course. I mean, generally our philosophy is not to remove any branch for the want of newer courses, because this is all waves of industry. So today there is more of artificial intelligence and data science, and tomorrow there could be some other wave. But we have to retain and see and how we can structure the course curriculum that is possible within the limits of university, because I think the faculty who are joining are coming from the pains of we are all administered by university system, and it is not very easy for a new course to be approved, or syllabus can be changed. The university says if you change the syllabus beyond 20%, they don't agree. There are a lot of limitations like that. However, we have to find solutions to these problems that we have as an academic community and produce good engineers.
If I may probably add a quick point there, trying to wear the hat of having been a member of various chambers of commerce in the country, and not necessarily with one industry. I think the bigger issue is we need those industries to thrive in India for opportunities to open up.
Yeah.
Find the Make in India movement, so on and so forth. If tomorrow the top 5 electronic manufacturers in the world were to come in and then establish their semiconductor chip manufacturing and fabrication facility in India, then obviously electronics is going to take off in a big way. Every time I have visited a campus for recruiting in the last 25 years, and I go and then I ask campuses which offer biostar engineering programs, bioinformatics, biomedical genetics, bioinstrumentation, so on and so forth. They ask me, where do these students get placed? The consistent answer is more than 80% of the students get placed in the IT industry. It is largely because you don't have the medical devices industry in India. You don't have a very thriving biotech industry in India up until now. But the pandemic has actually opened up a huge opportunity for biotech to grow in India. So once some of those sectors for which courses are offered take off in a big way, fine, then obviously some of these courses will become front and center. I think that's a much bigger issue to address rather than look at it purely from the lens of the academic community.
Abhay sir? Can we move on to the next section, sir? Abhay sir? We can't hear you, sir. Abhay sir is muted, Mohan sir.
Okay. Abhay, are you able to hear us?
Lavana, there is one more name is, I think you can make that as a co-host. Abhay Kumar.
Done. Both of them is done.
I think he might be having some network issues. So, Mohan sir, why don't you take over running the panel? Okay.
So, I mean, we have really run out of time. Obviously, this is not an opportunity that can be solved in 2 hours. But what is good is, I think there are opportunities now to talk about this in many forums. And in every forum that we attend, I attend, we get a lot of inputs. So like many other panels, today we learn more about the opportunities. And the problem statement, people are going beyond it and saying, what am I doing as an industry? What am I doing as an academic institution? The integration of domains across colleges, that is becoming more and more evident. Cross-pollination of departments, right? Whether it's a mechanical, electrical, civil, IT, computer science. What is a cross-learning, multidisciplinary kind of approach that we need to do as an academic institution so that you are able to best serve the industry on one side and make the best for the customer that you have as a college, right? Your customer is a student. So what can you do for the student as he or she embarks on their career and they become, create holistic opportunities for them. From an industry perspective, I think there is a larger, I think that was evident from the way Sundar, Karthik and Ram spoke about the initiatives that industry have been taking in terms of reaching out to the academia and creative collaborative opportunities, especially in the marketplace that they operate. So to that extent, the linkage is becoming stronger and stronger. I guess the challenge is, the industry's customers are moving much, much faster. So for even the industry to catch up with what their customers are looking for, that itself is a big, big game and battle that they have to play. Students and colleges are obviously at the tail end of this supply chain. So keep in mind that adoption of these opportunities, and I'm not using the word problems, using these opportunities at the academia level will come with a lag, but it will happen, as has been explained by many of the panelists. So it has been a brilliant session, people, and I enjoyed for sure. And looking at the number of audience who have been attending it, and they have attended, they have also enjoyed. We thank you all for this opportunity and sparing your time. Just to close out the session, I would request, my senior colleague and esteemed Alamelu herself to formally express her vote of thanks on behalf of PALS.
Thank you, Mohan. What a brilliant session it was. Sometimes what you tell is, so the academicians have to think differently to make their students industry ready. And our panelists were extremely honest in calling a spade as a spade. Read papers, read news items. Don't expect everything to be spoon-fed to you. Why? When there are exceptions, some things will happen. It was an extremely engaging and very interesting session. And there is a lot for PALS and our members to think through and come out with newer programs in the days to come to bring that collaboration between universities and industry. And now I am extremely happy to stand before you to deliver the vote of thanks. As usual, I will get the assistance from the great Tamil poet Valluvar to thank the two major groups I have to address today. One, our panelist and moderator, and two, our participants from the panel partner institutes. Here is Valluvar's couplet for my panelists. Payan Thukar Seida Udavi, Nayan Thukin, Nanmai Kadalit Perudu. Our panelists have brought a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table today. The benefits and the value PALS and its partner institutes have gained by listening to all their inputs is, as Valluvar says, Nanmai Kadalit Perudu, bigger than the massive ocean. On behalf of PALS, I extend my sincere thanks to all our panelists, Mr. Karthik Atmanathan, Mr. Sundar Subramaniam, Mr. Satish Chandra, Mr. Ramkumar Ramurthy, and Professor Veendran for accepting our invitation in spite of their busy schedules and coming and spending their valuable time with us. Thank you all. Special thanks to Mr. Abhay Meghnathan for being the moderator for this event and bringing the essence of what is to be brought out in the discussion. Thank you, Abhay, for your time and efforts. Next comes our partner institutes. They had been our source of motivation all along, and they continue to be so. Here again, let me quote Valluvar. Tinai tunai nandri seinum, panai tunayai kolvar, payan therivar. Those who know the value of what industry coordination and collaboration mean. I know our partner institutes know that. They will find ways, many ways of making use of what is in offer from their industries to benefit their faculty and students. Thank you all, our partner institutes. I extend my appreciation and thanks to the project management office consisting of Robin, Lavana, and Manikandan under the leadership of Sujata for executing the entire event. I deliberately avoid thanking Mohan and his team for bringing together this excellent team because it will look like a child thanking the parent or one eye thanking the other eye. So I'm deliberately avoiding the thanks. But I think all of us should appreciate our country and our state for the uninterrupted power supply and Wi-Fi connections for most of us. Thank you, India. Thank you, Tamil Nadu. Thank you all. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lavana, anything you would like to say to the audience? Anything they need to fill up?
Yes, sir. So thank you to all the participants for the wonderful participation. We have posted the feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill it, it is very important for us for further improvements. So please make sure to submit the feedback form. Thank you all. Thank you for the participation.
Thank you.
Panelists, feel free to leave now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan sir, Alamila ma'am, Anu ma'am, Arun sir, and Subbu sir.
Thank you, ma. Thank you.
Okay. Participants, if you fill the feedback form, you can log on. Please make sure to submit it.